All right, well, welcome to today's QuickBooks online presentation. I'm thankful that all of you have decided to join us, and there's quite a few of you online. So thank you for joining today and getting to become a little more familiar with the QuickBooks online. So today's session is designed to give you like a clear overview of how to record transactions in QuickBooks Online. And by the end of the presentation, you'll be able to walk away with practical tips and a solid understanding of how to accurately enter transactions so you can generate meaningful reports and visual insights that support a better business. So my name is Dana Conrad. I'm the presenter. I've had the privilege of working with QuickBooks for 27 years. Throughout my career, I've enjoyed serving as a trusted advisor in QuickBooks accounting, helping businesses streamline their processes and make informed financial decisions. So after today's session, please feel free to reach out with any questions or ideas you may have or that I could help you with, because I'm happy to always assist you. This is a little map of our locations. We have many locations located throughout northeastern Wisconsin. So if you're close by in one of these cities, you can always reach out to any of these offices and get some assistance. If you Google QuickBooks.com, you'd be able to find the phone numbers, or at the end of the presentation, I'll give you my email address and you can always reach out to me, and then I can get you connected with an accountant in one of those locations. So today I encourage, if you have questions, if I'm going through something, go ahead and you can put that in the chat, or if you wanted to raise your hand, that's fine too. I have Sarah assisting me today. I'm thankful that she's here to help kind of monitor the questions and answers. And if somebody's having any issues, feel free to reach out to Sarah or put something in the chat and she will try to assist you. We want to be able to share your experiences today. So if there's something that's challenging you, just let me know, let us know, and your input helps others learn too. And I encourage you to jot some things down. If I show something that's a cool little tip or a trick, go ahead and write it down or jot it down. And if you don't quite understand, you can always reach out to me after the call at the webinar, and I can always assist you further, or we could talk more about that. Then I also just encourage you to stay connected with our firm so that we can assist you with all your QuickBooks needs. And with that, I'm going to start out with the navigation system in QuickBooks, because if some of you are coming from the desktop, the online system works the same, but it doesn't look the same. It is more generated towards the iPhone world or the phone apps and things like that. So that's why it does look really different. But trust me, with my help, I can hopefully help you navigate it a little better and show you where things are and maybe give you an easier way of entering things. So on the screen now, I've just got the navigation menu, and that really is a go-to place for using the QuickBooks. I've got that. It's got the plus create, which is a huge tool, and then the bookmarks, which I'll talk a little bit about just to help make your ease into this system just a little bit easier maybe. And then there's the ability to pin different applications, and I'll be able to show you how to open different screens also. And within that navigation menu is that plus create. And I talk a lot about the plus create because when you go in there, the second column, it's the vendor. And under the vendor, there's the different options of how you can create expenses for your business. And we'll talk about the different ways. It talks about expense, it talks about checks and bills. What are all those three different ways? We'll go ahead and we'll talk about them. We'll break them down a little bit for you. And then we'll go through the bank feeds, There's different views, and then reconciling the bank statement, because as that is very important for your year-end processing, I want to show you how to reconcile it, keep it up to date daily, and then show you that you can attach bank statements, because many people don't realize that you have the ability to do that. And I think from here now, then I'm going to switch screens, and we're going to go to the QuickBooks Live. All right, if everything's working out well for me, you should be able to see my QuickBooks Online screen. And I've gone ahead and I have two open. So many of you may be new to the desktop or the online version here, and you are able to work in multiple screens. So a lot of times if I go to this plus create and I wanted to do this expense, you can just click this expense and you can drag it up to the top and you can see how it's saying expense, and then I can release it. It's now going to open up a new screen for me, and within that screen will be the expense. So now I still have the first screen that has all the homepage information, but now I have a second screen where I can record my expenses. And you can have the ability to drag these on multiple screens too. They slide around, so you don't have to have everything on one screen. So again, we'll start with, this is the navigation panel. It's on the left side. When you click something, so if I were to click the plus create, to the right then it kicks out the different options I have to record transactions within the QuickBooks. Meaning the first column has different things I can do for my customers, the second column for my vendors, the third column is related to payroll, and then the fourth has other options in it. The bookmarks is where we can have kind of like a little easy go-to spot. So we're able to take different apps and then we're able to bookmark them so that they show up in this bookmark section. And the reason to do that is it's just an easier place to put the things that you use more often. You don't have to use this by no means, but it's just a go-to place. So I'm just going to demonstrate. If I go down here to this all apps section, it will kick out to the right. And from there, I can see the different items that I can use under accounting. And if you scroll to the right, you can see I've got this little flag filled in because I always use bank transactions. So I have bookmarked that. And by bookmarking it here is how it shows up then under bookmarks. So if I also wanted to bookmark reconcile, I could do that, or receipts, chart of accounts. So by filling in this flag, if I go back to bookmarks, you'll see now those three are there. So again, it's just an easier go-to of finding things you use more often. If you hover over reports, it will kick to the right, allowing you to get to different reports, the standard reports and custom. As you become more familiar with the QuickBooks, you'll start creating custom reports for yourself. And again, within here is that little flag that gives you the ability to bookmark it, allowing you to have it in a secret place up here for yourself under bookmarks. Then we have the all apps. So the all apps is the applications that are found within the QuickBooks Online. And as you can see, you have the accounting, you have expenses and bills, which will pertain to you paying your vendors. You have the sales, which is you invoicing. You have a customer hub, where you'll be able to find all your customers that you have entered into the system. Your team, which is your employees. So if you have payroll hooked up, you'd be able to enter in their information. QuickBooks Online with the payroll subscriptions has the ability to track time. Inventory is out here. Sales tax, business tax, and different lending things. So there's different things out here that you can use to run your business. If you look under, so here we have all applications, then we have pinned applications. So this is where you're able to customize what you want pinned here. And pin just means to find the applications, you have to hover here to see all the applications. But if I pin one, then I can go directly down to accounting, and then it will show me those different applications right here in this pinned area. So to get anything into the pinned area, you would click down below here at Customize. So if I click Customize, a pop-up screen will happen. And on the left side here next to accounting, I can see there's a pin there referencing that that is pinned on my navigation bar. So you can see I have 3 things pinned. If I would want something else pinned there, I would just go ahead and click it. You also have the ability to drag the order. So if you had something that was in lower than something you wanted higher, you can drag them. You can put them wherever you want them. They're up to you. Or you can leave them in the positions that they show up on, or you have the ability to reset to default. That's an overview of the navigation bar to help you navigate through the QuickBooks. There is one more other area that I'd like to just touch on before we get into recording the transactions. And that's on the right side. There's a gear. Sometimes it's not very visible. There's other items up here. But if you were to click this gear, it's where the settings are. So if you ever used QuickBooks Desktop and you had the behind the scenes settings, in the QuickBooks Online, that can be found now under the gear, under your company, and then you have accountant settings. This is where you can add users. You can add your employees here. You can add an accounting firm. Whatever you need help with, you can walk through the manage users there. You're able to do custom forms in here. This is an additional place to find the chart of accounts. The Get the Desktop app allows the QuickBooks Online to download an app to your desktop, allowing you to double click that and gain access to the QuickBooks Online from the app that'll be listed on your desktop. Lists are out here, different lists you can look at. Tools and profile. If you ever need to update your subscription or add your credit card or look at something, that's all found then in the subscriptions and billing. From there, we're going to go to the Plus Create, and I'm going to walk through the different items under vendors. So we've got expense, check, bill, and pay bills. Many times people don't understand the difference between the two or the three. They all basically get you the same type of transaction entered. It's just how you are entering it. An expense is many times used for ACH items that deduct from your checking. You cannot print an expense. If you needed to print a check, you would have to enter the transaction through check or bill. So if you enter the transaction through check, I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. You can see that we have the ability to print later. The print later is telling you that you're able to enter the data here, and then from there you would save and close it, and you'd be able to print this information on a check to send to your vendors. The other option under the Plus Create under vendors is bill. So this is where I have the ability to run accounts payable in the QuickBooks. And this screen looks similar to the prior screen, the check, which also looks similar to the expense. So the screens look very similar. It's just understanding which screen you're in. There is also over on the left-hand corner, and this is in all screens, this little clock. If you hover over it and you click it, it's an easy go-to for any of your recent bills that you've entered. So if you entered something and you wanted to change it, back in the old system of desktop, they had that previous arrow that you could use. Well, in the QuickBooks Online, they just have the little clock for the history. So you're able to hover over the clock and click it, and then you can click into a previous bill. By clicking that bill, it brings up the information that shows what you had entered before. And let's say you entered the dollar amount wrong and you realized it now. So then you could change it here. So again, the recent is available in the expense screen, the check screen, and this bill screen. And while I'm in the bill screen, I just want to also touch on the fact that attachments is here. So you're able to click on attachment. You can add an attachment by clicking on it. It's going to search your computer for the invoice. Once you've scanned it or you've saved it from an email, you save it to a folder and then you can locate that. Or if you have the PDF saved on the computer or in a drive or someplace, you can drag and drop. So you have the ability to find that file and then drag it into here and drop it. The QuickBooks will automatically work on looking at that document and it will get displayed over here on the right. There's a spot here for picking your categories. So categories sometimes confuse people of what's a category. The category is the expense. So it's the different expenses that when you look at your profit and loss statement that you can see how much you spent in building repairs or computer repairs. So within the categories, you'll pick what best associates with the body shop where you want to see this on your profit and loss. The description is a place for you to kind of put a description of what this invoice was for. So if you had to look back later on, you could be like, oh yeah, that's what I did. I repaired the GMC truck. Or the more detailed you are, the easier it will be when you look back, because many times we forget things and we pay something and we don't remember. There's also the memo section. And the memo section would be the section that would print on the check. So there's the description and then there's the memo. And they're two different sections, but that's one would print on the check and one would not. You also have the ability to track expenses, whether they're billable, taxable, or customers. And we won't go into that today, but you'd be able to link this expense to a customer. If you have QuickBooks Online set up for bill payments, you can pay vendors ACH through the system. And if I did have that set up, you could hit save and schedule payment. This would allow you to schedule the payment to pay ACH to their bank accounts. And again, if you have questions with that, feel free to reach out and we can explain that more to you. Back to the plus create expense. So I'm going to open that section up and just show how similar that looked to where we just were bill. So if you don't know what section you're in or what you checked, always look in the upper left-hand corner. It'll tell you I'm in the expense. I'm not in a check, I'm not in a bill, I'm in expense. So if I'm in expense, I have the ability to record an ACH or something that will automatically withdraw from my checking. Again, I'm able to pick a vendor, the checking, and then I could fill in the date. Payment method and reference number is not required. If you feel the need to track things, you can type in words in the reference number for auto. And again, in the category, you can type what expense account you're looking for, or you have the ability to click the down arrow and then you can scroll through the many different expenses that are listed there. Again, you can put in the description to add what you're looking for, what you did here for this meal. You can put in the dollar amount. Now, let's say that this actually some was for travel and some was for something else. You do have the ability to use two lines. So you don't have to just use one line per transaction. You're actually able to use multiple lines to break things out. So if you were to pay something and it had to go to different categories, you're able to use different lines as you go through. And then you would want this to add up to the amount that's auto withdrawing from your checking account. And again, you can put in memos, descriptions, and you can also attach the receipts. So if this was something that we went to Bob's Burger and we had a receipt now, you have the ability to upload the receipt.
Dana, we have a few questions from the chat, if you'd like to take a moment.
Sure, we sure can.
Larry is asking, can a report pull transactions from multiple bank accounts and include them into a single report?
Yes. Yes. We could, if you email me that transaction or email me that, I can always work on when we get to reports. I don't know if we'll have time to specifically do that, but I can look into that after today's seminar and we can connect and show you how to do that.
Great. And then we have, what is the difference between a bill and expense? Will it show different on the check register? For the expenses, do they auto-populate from past expenses?
So yes, auto expenses will populate from the prior, similar to the desktop. So I'm going to just put Bob's Burger in, save it, and then I'm going to pick Bob's Burger again. So by picking Bob's Burger again, you can see it populated from what I had entered previously. This is a behind the scenes option, and it's found in that gear in the upper right hand corner. And then the difference between expense and bill is accounts payable. So an expense gets recorded the day it happens, and that's where it hits the profit and loss. A bill does not get recorded in the checking account until you tell it to pay bills. So if I enter a bill, it's assuming that now I'm in January and I have my electric bill from December. I can go ahead and enter it as a bill because I have the ability to enter it in the prior month. I'll just choose Hall Properties and I'm going to enter it in December. But now we're in January. So now that I've entered it as a bill, it's going to show up in my expenses in December, but not my check register. So if I go back to the plus create and I say pay bills, the one that I just created, Hall Properties, is in here. So I can go ahead and pay it today. So in the pay account, I would choose my checking account and I could pick today's date. I can tell it to print later. And then I'd be able to print this check today, and then today is when it would hit my checking account. The expense would hit in December, and the deduction in the payroll or checking account would happen today. But if I do it as an expense, it hits my expense that day and my checking account. So they hit on the same day. So basically the behind the scenes difference is accounts payable. Now I'm just going to say save and close. So once I hit save and close, it now will deduct from my checking account. Good questions. Did I get them all, Sarah?
I've got 3 more if you want to take them.
Oh, sure, we can go for it.
Great. Paul is asking if you can go over how to enter recurring expenses, such as a monthly auto loan payment.
Okay, sure. So if we were to go to plus create expense and we were going to set up a payment with a bank, so I'm typing in a bank that's not in this QuickBooks demo account because they're located in California and we're in Wisconsin. So because this vendor is not in here, I can add it. So you could also add it from the vendor section, or you can just add things on the fly. So I'm just going to say add new. It will bring up the vendor behind the scenes information. I'm able to fill it in. Sometimes the QuickBooks likes to fill in company name, vendor name, and then first and last name. It duplicates itself, I feel. I do get rid of it in the first name so that it doesn't have it listed so many times on my transaction screen, but you don't have to do that. It's fine to leave it in all. But you can also fill in addresses. You can put notes in here. ACHs, this is the section where you'd be able to pay the vendor. I'm also clicking on this, the word, the bold, it's just shrinking it. Additional information, this is a section where you'd be able to enter somebody's W-9 information. So you could attach the W-9 here. You could fill in the business ID or social security number here, and then you can tell it to track payments for 1099. And then you can hit save. So I'm going to set up, I'm going to see, okay, I have a note payable. So I'm creating this loan payment for Bank First. It's a note payable. I'm going to put in the dollar amount. Whether you have the breakdown at the time of entering it, you're allowed to enter in the interest expense. Another situation here, this interest expense is not in my chart of accounts, so I am able to add this expense on the fly, similar to the desktop version I always had. So I have the account name up here listed as interest expense. I can drop the down arrow. I now need to choose what type of account this is. And because it's called interest expense, I know it's an expense, so I can pick expense. You can make things sub-accounts of others. The detailed type is not a required field, but if you feel the need to pick a category, you sure can. And then I'm going to hit save. Okay, so now I have a transaction in here, but I want to take this transaction. I don't necessarily want it entered, but I want to make it recurring. So at the bottom here, there's a button called Make Recurring. I have now entered into a different screen. I don't know if you can tell that, but now it's asking me how I want to set this monthly payment up. So in intervals, is it monthly, daily, weekly, yearly? When do I want it entered? Is it the first day of the month? Is it the fourth day? Same here. How many months this is going to happen? The start date, the end date. It is now set up as a template. But if I set this template up with today's date, it's probably not going to enter because QuickBooks is working on the minute by minute, day by day. So if I wanted this to enter in the system today, it wouldn't. With this recurring transaction, I would have to pick tomorrow. Then when I load in the open up tomorrow, it'll already be in there. I can hit Save Template. It'll now add it to my different templates, and it disappeared. To find that, you go to that gear in the upper right-hand corner, and you're going to have under Lists, Recurring Transactions. And there you're going to see the one I just create. So it's scheduled. And the next time it's going to enter is February 4th. Because it went to the next month that when we were entering it because of how I set it up.
Dana, I have someone asking if you can edit a reoccurring expense.
You sure can. So right from here, I can hit edit. And it will bring up that template screen once again where I can change it. So if I wanted it to enter yet in January, I'd be able to tell it to do that on this screen. And then you would make any changes you needed, change the dollar amounts, and then you can save the template. So this is the template you're editing. But if you had to edit that transaction, then you'd have to go find that transaction in your check register. And a little, let me just record this transaction. Sorry. If I click to use this transaction over on the right side, I can say use it. And I can say to save and close it. So let's say the computer entered that transaction all on its own. If I click up here in the navigation window, I can type in the 1500 that I just recorded, let the system search for it. So I just typed 1500. I didn't hit enter. I just typed in the dollar amount. The system looked through and it found the transaction that I recorded. And then I'm able to click on it. It brings up the transaction and I'm able to change it if I had to change the principal and interest. You can find the transaction, by using that navigation search, or you could go to the check register or to a report also and find it.
Great. There are a few more questions. We've got two about printing checks. So the first one, Carrie is asking, is there a setting to have the memo section print on a check? We put the memo info in, but it doesn't print on the check.
Interesting. I don't know. I assumed it printed. We would have to go under the gear and look through the account settings to see if it's an account setting that your system has off. We can look at that later, or we can look at that after class and I can get back to you.
Great. And then when entering the vendor and adding the address, where do you add it so that it prints on the right spot on the check? I always have issues with that on the desktop version. It ends up putting the address in the to part of the check.
Oh, I'm not sure, because when you print a check, let's see if we can view a check in here. Oh, sorry. Let's see if I go here, if I view it, because the mailing address is what should show up. Because you have to go through the set it up. Let's see if we can preview it here. Yeah, so this is what QuickBooks Online does. It puts the vendor here, the pay to, but then it's got the dollar amount of the check and then it's got the address down here. So that should be what's happening with your QuickBooks Online. Let's see. Get out of there. Okay. If that's, we can look at that too afterwards. You could always email me and then we can walk through that together to see what's happening in your system.
All right, another check question. QuickBooks is automatically assigning check numbers to some of our ACH debits that come from vendors. This is throwing off our check numbers for printed checks. How do I make this stop?
I don't know. We will have to look at that after to see how the ACHs are being recorded, or if they're downloading, if they're within the check section or the expense section for the checks. We can investigate that also afterwards.
And last question for now, does QuickBooks Online have classes?
Yes. Are you talking classes for expenses or?
It doesn't specify, but I believe maybe like training classes is what we're asking about.
I'm not sure either, because within QuickBooks, you do have the ability of turning classes on. If that's what this is about, you have to have a subscription plus and up to be able to turn classes on. And you can always reach out to me afterwards and I can explain that to you further too. All right, so let's get back on track here. I do want to touch on, in my bookmarks, the bank transaction section, that's the bank fees. I did want to touch on that too. Many people get confused with the bank transaction screen. So the bank transaction screen gives you the ability to connect your checking account, your savings account, or your credit cards with your login with those institutes. So I can enter in my checking account. So if I had First State Bank, I'd be able to enter in the login information, and I'd be able to connect my bank. Now, when you go ahead and you connect your bank, you can pick a date. So you can pick January 1st of 26, or you can go back farther. If something were to get connected and then you downloaded information you didn't want because you picked the wrong date and you've already have all that data reconciled, you do have the ability to just come to the screen, the for review screen, and click items. And if you click multiple items or one at a time, you have this ability to either say accept, edit, or exclude. So if I went and I connected my bank or I connected my credit card and items downloaded, transactions downloaded that I didn't want, you can exclude them. So when you check multiple lines off, you get that bar that pops up. Or you have the ability to look at this transaction and you can add it on the right, or you can click it and then you can exclude it. And you can also accept and edit up here too. Many times people get confused because transactions come down from the bank and this one doesn't say match. So if you see the first transaction here, it says one match found. So that means that I've gone ahead beforehand, so before we started class, and I did enter this deposit. And now the QuickBooks bank transaction screen recognized, hey, I see you already have that transaction in your system. Do you want me to match it? So from this screen, I could on the right side, click match, or I can put a check mark in front of it and I can say accept. I can also edit it and I can exclude it. If I uncheck it, I can also just click it. So I click it, it now expands. Again, gives me different ways of recording it here. You can categorize it because it could be wrong. You can match it and record it as a transfer. If it's not finding the entry I'm wanting, you can also search for items within here. To see if I can. So if I knew I had this entry entered already, I can click on it and I can also try to have the system match it. So it's trying to find a match for me. So I thought this transaction was in the system. So I told it to match. It brings up another screen for me to look through transactions that have taken place within the QuickBooks to see if maybe the system didn't find it, but I could find it because I knew it was entered. But then I can see I have Travis here, but it's a different dollar amount, so I maybe was mistaken. Or I can see here the 103.55 matches up here. So what that means is when it downloaded from the bank, it didn't recognize it. Something was a little altered, but if I come in here and I try to find it myself, and I did find it, I can click the check mark and then I can say match. So it's now going to match what I just found to that transaction. It will no longer be listed on the bank download screen, but it's always still here because I have for review, which are items I haven't reviewed yet, and then I have categorized. So if I click the categorize, I can see that's the one that I just happened to match. You can undo it. If you click on the excluded screen, there's nothing in here now. But if I was to go to here, click off something, click exclude, I didn't know what they were at the time. And then I'm like, oh, I really needed those. So if I click on the exclude, it will now appear and I can undo. So I could click the top arrow, it'll check all three off and I can click undo, sending it back to my for review screen. So the bank transaction download or credit cards or saving, it's a very powerful feature. By looking at this screen and matching things up means that you've entered it and now it's matching and it's reconciled so that when you go to reconcile your bank statement, it's already going to be cleared. If things are not matching up or are not entered in your system, maybe it would trigger is there fraud happening in my account, or did I just forget to enter things? Or have I chosen to enter items right from this screen? Which some people do too. They don't enter it ahead of time, they enter it as it comes down. Many people do that with their credit cards. You're able to use the credit cards, allowing them to categorize them here. So under the account, I can pick what this was for, and then I can say add. Sometimes the vendors fill in, sometimes they don't fill in. You're able to fill it in if you need it. If you don't want it to, that's fine. You can track it with customers again, same as this if we were entering it through the expense or check or billing screen. And then from here, I can hit add. I also have the ability to add the attachment. So if I had the receipt for this transaction that happened on my credit card, I am able to attach it. Because the transaction is correct, you can add. Now, when we look at this transaction, it only has one line, but I am able to click the split button. And again, I would be able to pick multiple lines. And then I can break the transaction into 2 lines. As I'm filling in the top part here, the system is calculating how much more I need the difference. And then once the difference is to 0, I can split and add. So it has now added that transaction as a split. The QuickBooks Online recently had an update to their views. Some people's view might look a little different than I have here. There is a new banking page that you can switch to, that you're allowed to. So it's going to switch me to a different view. So recently they kind of created a new view, but you are still able to use the old view. So some of you may your screen looks different, but that's because you're in the new view and this is the old view. They are working to switch it. As you can see, I clicked this and it's working on changing my view, but it's rather slow. I am not going to wait, but if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out and we can talk about this view or the old view. Also underneath the receipts, under accounting, is the ability to upload receipts. So if you had a receipt, you're able to drag and drop it in here. If you have the transaction entered, it's going to look for that transaction and you should be able to match it up. So if you've already entered a charge from your credit card and now you've entered the receipt into this screen, it has the ability to read the receipt. It'll know the vendor, the date, the dollar amount. It will then look into your system to try to figure out where it belongs. If it doesn't find something, it can be added. The transaction or expense can be added from this screen. But the action will end up being on the right side where it'll say match, and then it will attach this expense to that credit card transaction or the check or whatever it could be. Reconcile is where after the month is over and you have the bank statement, you're able to come in here to reconcile the bank statement by picking the beginning balance will be on the bank statement. The ending balance will also be listed, and then the date. I'm just going to put some numbers into here and say start reconciling. It then opens up an additional screen with all the transactions that have been entered for the month. None of these have been reconciled yet because I didn't match them to anything or didn't make myself aware of them through the bank transaction download screen. You can see that I did match this Travis payment that he paid through the bank transaction screen and allowing it to say it is reconciled in here because it's got the green. I didn't touch anything. It tells me it cleared my bank on November 12th. So by using the bank transaction screen, it's allowing you to reconcile your bank account as you go. Now, if I was to figure out that I could probably go there. Well, you can click one of your other screens, open it up, and find your bank transaction screen, and you could go to it, and you could go back in here and you can click the matches. And you can go one by one. You can go multiple ones at the same time. You can click it, accept. It doesn't seem to be working. This is the sample company. It's not working real well. Let's see if this one works. When I go back to reconcile, you can click the refresh button. I had troubles with this sample company yesterday, not necessarily working the way I wanted. It doesn't look like they came over. In a perfect world, this would be working. It's just not taking it from here, and I don't know why. It's a sample company that seems to have issues today and yesterday. And again, I apologize for that, but if you do have questions about the reconciliation, you can go ahead and we can always talk about it. If I were to go back, I can always change the statement ending balance if you were to enter the dollar amount different. So now I can see the difference is the 5103.55 because now I entered the ending balance as 0, and now I realize that was wrong too. So I can hit edit again. I can type the correct number, same date, hit save. It now says the difference is 0. So your ultimate goal when you're reconciling your checking account or your credit card statements is to get yourself to 0. And then I can hit finish now. And then I can hit done. Once you hit reconcile, there's a summary you can print to verify the items that have cleared and not cleared. You can hit history by account. This is where I was talking where we can attach bank statements. There are some banks that automatically download the bank statement. So if you were to go to reconcile your account and your bank statement is there, that is happening because your account is linked to the bank. And I don't know the rhyme or reason of why some are hitting and some aren't, but ultimately the goal for QuickBooks would be to have everybody's accounts talking and have the ability to download the bank statements. So this one didn't, so I'm able to hit attach. If I hit attach, it opens up another screen where I can again browse for the file or drag the file. So I'm able to browse for the bank statement or just drag it in here. Once I drag it in here, you'll see that it'll be attached here. If you click the down arrow on the right here, the view report, or you can print the report. So the view report is the summary that shows the information that was listed on the bank statement, the items that we've got cleared or uncleared, and then it will give you a listing of what went through the system and what didn't go. So if you have a question or you change something, you can always go back to these reconciliation reports and see if you did delete something that had cleared, you'll have an error up here telling you that. Also, because we have multiple accounts, you can always print or look at again, if you had savings accounts attached, you can reconcile those statements, and same with the credit cards. You can come in here, you can reconcile the credit card. You'll be able to enter in the ending balance, the date, and then you can start reconciling. Now, how do we record a credit card transaction? I'm talking about bank mostly, but now it has the ability for credit cards. So how exactly do we record a credit card transaction? Well, go back to our favorite little plus create, which is my favorite. Go under vendors and we go to expense. And again, you could do it under check, you can do it under bill. We would pick the vendor that the credit card is, the charge was for, or the vendor, and then we pick the payment account is the credit card. So the payment amount you can have is checking, you can have savings, or the credit cards. So mostly people probably use the checking, but you can also record your transactions, every single transaction that goes through your credit card, through the Plus Create or the check. And then you would pick the payment account of the credit card. And you can pick the date that it happened. Again, you can fill in the payment method or the reference number if you wanted. The category, we'd be able to pick what type of an expense this was for, filling in the description if we needed, and the dollar amount. And if it was linked to a customer, we could fill that information in too. You can fill in the memo and then you can attach a receipt from this screen also. And you have the ability within this screen to break it down between multiple expense lines. If this was for insurance and we had insurance for the building and we had workers' comp, we'd be able to break them both out in here and set dollar amounts to them. We can hit save. If I hit save, it saves the transaction and leaves it on the screen. If I hit save and close, it saves the transaction and closes the screen. Or if you click the down arrow, you can hit save and new, bringing up a blank screen for entering another expense. The system is talking about this auto fill from file. That is referring to if we had an bill from the, say, insurance company, you could just drop it here. The system will try to read it for you and figure out who the vendor is, what category it goes to, and the dollar amount. I haven't found this to be very efficient because it seems to take it a while to read the autofill. And I don't know if that's AI working. The first time it takes longer and the second time it will get quicker and quicker. Which could be the case. The more it reads obviously the more you do out here, it's figuring out what you're doing, who you're working for, all that information is out here. The previous transaction is again found underneath the clock. So I can see recent transactions and you're able to click into any of them. We are approaching an hour and I did say that this webinar would go for an hour. There's much more to talk on, so we could always get input from anybody listening that if they wanted to have ideas for us to do another seminar, please let us know. We'd be more than willing to do that. But are there a lot more questions, Sarah, that we should address?
We have 2 more questions.
Okay.
All right. First one, can you match multiple bank expenses to a single expense? For example, we are a nonprofit and pay our credit card monthly and need to split out every charge and assign that to a class. So it sounds like we would need to match the entire month's expenses to that one recorded ACH expense in QuickBooks, correct?
So no, that's what I just showed, where you could actually enter in each transaction for the credit card. You would do the plus create and then expense. So you would be entering in every credit card transaction. And then from there, you would do plus create. And then way on the right on the other column, it's pay down credit card. So by entering in each individual transaction, it's going to allow you to record it to the expense and the class. And then when you go to make a payment, you would come into this screen, which credit card did I pay, in case you have multiple credit cards, it would show here. The payee, if you have a Chase credit card or whoever the credit card is optional, but the dollar amount, you'd be able to fill in the dollar amount you paid and the day you paid it, and then which bank account it comes out of. And again, you're also able to hit attachments or memos, but you can attach the documentation showing how you made the payment. So what this means is then when it downloads from the bank, it's a match, because this 5,000 will match what went through the bank. And then when you go to reconcile, you could reconcile the credit card. Then you would choose the MasterCard account. You could put in the ending balance, the date. You would then reconcile everything from that credit card and you'd be able to check it off. So your charges would show up here individually and then your payment's going to show up individually. And you can do it the reconciliation from here, or if you connect the credit card, you'd have the ability to watch those transactions come down and take care of them daily or weekly, however they come down. And then when you come in here to reconcile, basically would be reconciled, which is similar to this one here, which I was able to download from the bank and connect because it's got the cleared date on it. But very good question. If you have more concerns about that, feel free to reach out to me and I can go in detail with you a little bit more on that. Great question.
Right, next up is there a way to undo a previously completed reconciliation if there appears to be an error from the prior reconciliation?
Not really. I don't redo them, but my trick is to re-reconcile it. So for instance, if we already reconciled December's, but I went ahead and I deleted something, I made some kind of a change, this beginning balance will be off from the December ending balance because the last statement reconciled was December, and this should be the ending balance, which will be my beginning balance for January. And if that is wrong, all you have to do is come back out here, hit the statement ending date, and basically type in the same date. So it's kind of re-reconciling what you've already reconciled. So if I start reconciling it, the only things that are going to show up are either incorrect things because I've made some changes or items that have not been reconciled. So anything that already cleared on that prior statement will not show again. That stuff is gone, that has been reconciled, just the new item. So we don't want to undo it, we just want to reconcile it again. It's a good question, and that comes up with many people. So if that's something that we could go more in depth with you, feel free to reach out and I can help you with that too.
And then our last question that we have so far is, what is the best to use for scanning and adding attachments, a desktop scanner or any other recommendations?
The best scanners are the ones that are stand up. They're continuous feed. They seem to do a really nice job of scanning the document. There's probably cost involved with that, but in the end, the cost should outweigh the benefits because the paper fades. You get those credit card receipts from the gas stations, those fade. But if you're able to scan that little credit card sheet in and attach it, that stays out here. So if you were to get audited, the documentation is attached to that expense, and then you're able to provide that. Where sometimes those items sit in the files and they fade away. So our firm has many of the continuous feeders. Those seem to work the best. You can always reach out and we can give you the name. I don't know the name of the scanners, but they are continuous feed, and I think they're maybe over $500 or something. But if you have further questions, you can let me know.
And that covered all the questions that we had queued up.
Okay, sweet. One more thing, we have a little bit of time. So under expense and bills, this is where the vendors are held. I just want to show you that if you've entered vendors on the go and you needed to edit the vendor, you can go to this vendor section and you can find the vendors that you've entered, and then you can edit them. You can also do multiple things from here. If you did check it off, you were able to create bills from this section, write checks, different things. But if you go into it, within here, it tells you the dates that you've paid this particular vendor, so the different things and how you've entered it. There's a credit card one, there's an expense, there's a cash expense. The other cool thing is in here is category, and if I were to have been categorizing this vendor to meals this whole time and it turns out it wasn't meals, it was an office expense. If I come into this screen, I'm able to change all of these. You still have to go one by one, but you're not double clicking and opening a transaction. You're able to just click in the box and change it. This one I can't because it's a split, but I find this really convenient if you've gone along the whole year and you accidentally recorded a transaction to the wrong expense account. You do have the ability to come into this vendor and change them all in one screen versus going to the reports and clicking on each one individually. So if I went to the standard reports and I was able to click on profit and loss, I have to change the dates because it seems to be only picking up 2026. And I can change the dates by clicking in the from and to, or you can also do report period, and you could find last year in here. But if I scroll down to an expense account and I want to see what is sitting in meals and entertainment, I can click this. This is live. If I click that dollar amount, it will bring up all the transactions that have happened in this account from January through December of 25. If I didn't want these transactions in here, I would have to click on it. It's going to open up the screen for the expense, and then I could change it. So I'm still able to do it. It just takes a little bit longer. So just, one of the key things is people don't realize that you can have multiple screens open. So just keep in mind, if I were to hover reports, standard reports, I can drag it up. And again, multiple screens works and helps people a lot. The payroll, we don't touch on payroll during these webinars because I can't see it for one in the sample company, and it's more on individual needs. So you can reach out to me and I can get you in contact with somebody in one of our other offices. And I thank you for attending today. I have my contact information up on the screen. So if you want, feel free to reach out. I can help you with further. And we will send out a survey. And in that survey, we just ask if you feel there's further items that I could touch on or go more in depth on. Definitely would be willing. Within an hour, we got through quite a bit. There's obviously a lot more to learn in here, but it's just kind of just get you a little familiar. And if you have ideas on seminars down the road, just let me know. Thank you for attending. Were there any other questions I should reach on, Sarah?
Nope, we got them all covered.
Okay, great. Thank you all for attending.